So today we're going to figure out the lowest common multiples of monomials. To figure out this, you first need to know what a multiple is. A multiple is the specific number multiplied by a number that equals a multiple. For example, the multiples of 2 are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and so on.
If you want to find the least common multiple of a monomial, you first need to know what a monomial is. A monomial is made up of numbers, variables, and exponents. An abbreviation here. So, how are we going to solve this? How are we going to solve a monomial? Let's have an example. We could say 2x and y to the power of 2 and p. How do we solve this? This seems pretty complicated, but not at all. What you have to basically do is leave each number or variable by itself. When I mean to leave a number by itself, you need to see if this number is a prime number. As I can see, this number is already a prime number, so we don't need to do the prime factorization. And another thing you need to do to solve a monomial, you need to leave every variable by itself. So we don't want any exponent hanging that is more than 1. If it's more than 1, we need to simplify it. Okay, so what basically we're going to do is, since 2 is already a prime number, we don't need to do any extra steps. X, which is already 1, times x. And y, since we have 2 exponents, we do y 2 times. So 2 times x times y times y. And since p is also 1, times p. So here we have a solved monomial.
Okay, now let's find the least common multiple of two numbers to start easy. Let's just use 8 and 4, for example. To figure out the least common multiple of these two numbers, you first have to find the prime factorization of each. So you would use the skateboard method. You would go like this, and then you'd say, okay, what is 8 divisible by? Well, 8 can be divided by 2, which equals 4, and then if you were to divide that by 2, you would get 2. And you always have to use, on this side, they have to be prime, or else the skateboard method won't work. So then you would use your famous L, and this equals the prime factorization of 8. 2 times 2 times 2. So then you would go ahead and do the same thing for 4. 4 can be divisible by 2, and that equals 2. So the prime factorization for 4 equals 2 times 2, as you can see here. Now we have to circle what they have in common. So as you can see, they both have a 2 here, and they both have a 2 here. So then, when you're finding the least common multiple of two numbers, you would write down what's circled once and then add in your extra. For example, here we would say, okay, the least common multiple would be 2 times 2, because they're each circled, so you just write them one time, times 2, your extra one here. But of course, we're not completely done yet. We have to actually figure out what this equals. So 2 times 2 equals 4, times 2 equals 8. And 8 equals the least common multiple of 8 and 4.
Actually find the LCM of monomials. Here we have two monomials that are waiting to be simplified. Let's start with 24. 24, as you can see, is not a prime factor, so we need to do, again, the skateboard method. So 24, we put it in its special house, and 24 is divisible by 2, which equals 12. 12 is not a prime number, so we keep on going. 12 is also divisible by 2, so we put 2 again. 12 divided by 2 equals 6, and 6 is divisible by 3, which is also a prime number. So 6 divided by 3 equals 2. And here we have our famous L. Now, we apply what we just did here into our problem. So we have 2 times 2 times 3 times 2. So now, we want to solve the variables and exponents that we have here. We have x to the second power, so we write x twice, 1, 2, and we have y to the third power. So we rewrite y 3 times, 1, 2, 3. Now we want to move on into our next problem. As we can see, 12 is not a prime factor, so we're going to have to use the skateboard method. We write our 12 in its special little house and do. 12 is divided by 2, so 2. And 12 divided by 2 equals 6. And 6 is divisible by 3, which is also a prime number. So 6 divided by 3 equals 2. And here we have our famous L. Now once again, we apply this into our problem. 2 times 3 times 2. And now, once again, we move on into our variables and exponents. X is into the third power, so we're going to have to write x 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. Now we can see that y is a little loner and is going to be ones. So we have y. Now, for this step, we're going to have to find which of these numbers are in common. We have 2 is in common. We have these 3 in common. We have these 2 in common. And we have these 2x, these x, this one, and we have 2 y's. Now, so we don't miss any out, I'm going to underline the extra variables and numbers. Now, for the part, we're actually going to find the least common multiple. Since these are circled, they kind of equal as 1, so we're only going to write this as 1. So 2, so there's twice, but we're only going to write it once. Then we have 3 times 3 times 2. We have, don't forget the extra 2 right here, 2. And then you have times x, the extra x, times y, times the 2 y's. Now, we're not over yet. We now need to solve for this long equation we have here. So now, we're going to have to simplify this. So the actual LCM equals 2 times 3 equals 6. And 6 times 2 equals 12. And 12 times 2 equals 24. So here we have 24. Now with our long variables, we have x 1, 2, 3 times. So 24 and x to the third power. And we have y 1, 2, 3 times. So y to the third power. And here we have a least common multiple.
Least common multiple of 2 more monomials. So let's use 10xy cubed and 15x cubed y to the second power. So first we have to simplify this big equation. So first let's find the prime factorization of 2. 2 can be divisible by 2, that would make 5, and that's it. So you have 2 times 5 times x once, since there's no exponent, and y 3 times. So times y times y times y. Now let's do the same thing, but with this monomial. So let's find the prime factorization of 15. It can be divisible by 3, which would then equal 5, and since they're both prime, we can use our famous L to figure that out. So that would be 3 times 5 times x times x times x times y, since it's x 3 times and y twice. Okay, so now let's circle what these two have in common. I'll just write it up here to make it easier. Times x times x times x times y times y. So they each have a y. They each have another y, they each have an x, and they each have a 5. So we would then write the 2 alone, the 3 alone, the 5 once since it's circled, these 2 x's here, this x once since it's circled, we can't forget this y, and then this y once since it's circled, and this y once since it's circled. So then we would have to simplify this great equation and actually figure it out. So 2 times 3 is 6, times 5 is 30, and then we have to figure out the variables. X 1, 2, 3 times, so we could say x to the 3rd power, or x cubed, and y 1, 2, 3 times. So 30x cubed y cubed is the least common multiple of these 2 monomials. Congratulations, you have learned this step. Yay!